Business activity in Egypt expands at the fastest rate in December. Money supply is up 15%, and all look set for a major economic summit in March. So is Egypt's economy finally looking up? Hello and thank you for joining us on Global Business as we bring you insights into the constantly changing business landscape of the African continent. From Lagos to Cairo, from Nairobi to Johannesburg, we'll be taking you directly to entrepreneurs who are making business headlines. I am Penina Karibe, live in the Kenyan capital, Nairobi. It's 9 p.m. here in East Africa. Plenty coming up here on Global Biz, including these stories. A theme park in Zimbabwe's Victoria Falls to rival Disneyland. And making sense out of the kitenge, we meet a Kenyan entrepreneur who's building a fashion empire one design at a time. So let's begin up north. And business activity in Egypt expanded at its fastest rate in the 3 months to December, with rising output and export demand bolstering economic recovery. The HSBC Egypt Purchasing Managers Index for the non-oil private sector rose to 51.4 points in December from 50.7 the previous month and 52.4 points in September. Ratings above 50 indicate an expansion in activity, while those below 50 point to a contraction. Egypt is yet to regain momentum, but a fifth consecutive score above 50 reinforces views that the economy continues to stabilize after 4 years of political unrest. All right, so let's now head over to Cairo, where we're joined by Gamal Zaida, a columnist and managing editor at Al Ahram newspaper. Thanks for joining us. So a lot of positive numbers coming out of Egypt, including an increase in money supply as well. What is driving this?
In fact, I mean, we have to take into consideration all factors which affect the Egyptian economy. First of all, the political situation. Now Egypt is moving in the region, I mean, cooperating with Saudi Arabia, Emirates, Kuwait, and the rest of the Gulf countries, and which ensure the flow of hard currency to Egypt during the last year, which played an important role in enhancing and improving the balance of payment. And second of all, the Egyptian government is pledged to solve the legal problems which faces the investors and the private sector, whether they are Egyptian or foreign investors. Especially, we are ahead of a big economic conference will be held in Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt in March. And that's why the Prime Minister Mahleb promised to solve lots of legal problems and to reduce the level of bureaucracy and corruption in the economy.
Right. So, Gamal, Egypt seems to be on a charm offensive to investors ahead of the March Economic Conference, but the business environment is still seen as bureaucratic and the justice system is slow. So how is this being addressed?
In fact, talking about bureaucracy in Egypt, I cannot guarantee that the government will be able to solve the bureaucratic problems in 2 months or 3 months, because this is a deep problem. All what they can do is trying to improve the investment atmosphere in Egypt through shortening the steps in front of investors to launch a new project. For example, I mean, to launch a new project in Egypt, it takes a long time, and it takes many measures. But I mean, to reduce or to get rid of bureaucracy and corruption, it will take much time, because it has to do with the culture, and it needs a lot of orientation, and it needs a lot of training to employees to facilitate the investment atmosphere.
So, Gamal, considering the level of support Egypt receives from some Gulf countries, how exposed is the country going by the falling global price of crude?
In fact, unfortunately, the Egyptian economy is still vulnerable because it does not depend on the production sector, but it depends on the services sector. For example, one of the main income for the GDP is the tourism sector, and when you have political instability or violence here and there, it will affect the tourism sector, which has been deteriorated a lot during the last 4 years. And as well, Egypt depends on the remittances coming from the Egyptians abroad, as well as the foreign assistance coming from the Gulf countries and as well from the US aid. But the production sector has to be more stronger to be able to increase the exports. I mean, we can say that the exports has been slightly increased during the last 3 months.
Right.
But I do believe that the Egyptian economy has to face the reform to be able to export more, for example, the Chinese economy.
All right. Gamal Zaida joining us live from Cairo. Thank you for being with us. So South Africa's private sector expanded at its lowest rate in the 5 months to December as output and new orders declined. The HSBC Purchasing Managers Index slipped to 50.2 in December from 50.5 in November as demand from the domestic market dwindled. Inflationary pressures in South Africa's private sector eased further in December to 3.5-year lows. Economists say the latest figures indicate that Africa's most advanced nation has settled back into a pattern of sluggish growth. South Africa has been grappling with a set of economic challenges, including power outages, spiraling industrial action, weak commodity prices, and rate cuts following weak banking regulations. Now, here in Kenya, the economy is expected to shrug off insecurity fears and grow by between 5.7 and 6.9% this year. Analysts at UAP Investments pegged their optimism on normalized rainfall, stabilizing global tea prices, and reduced attrition rate in the tourism sector. UAP Investments forecasts a continued rate of disinflation supported by dropping food and energy prices. Now, not only is there a fall in the global price of crude, but Kenya is aggressively exploiting cheaper geothermal energy, expected to push down the cost of electricity. The analysts project an average annual rate of inflation of between 5 and 6%, which falls within the central bank's target range of 2.5% to 7.5%. All right, so let's talk more on this. We're joined here in studio by Peter Ngeno. He's the General Manager for UAP Investments here in Kenya. Thanks very much, Peter, for joining us. So,
thank you, Panina, for having me.
Yeah, it's quite an optimistic picture you have for a country that especially has been hit by terrorists repeatedly last year.
Yeah.
So does this mean that the security threat you feel has been adequately addressed?
When you're looking at the general, the GDP of an economy, for example, in Kenya, for example, tourism and the hotel industry only accounts for 2% or less than 2% of the overall GDP.
Right.
So the tourism, as bad as it is with the terrorism and everything, it still contributes very little to the economy. So the major contributors to the economy are agriculture, manufacturing, financial services as well. So at UAP Investments, we have forecasted at a lower rate of inflation and a lower interest rate. Both of those factors will spur growth in the economy. For example, with a lower interest rate, banks, consumers and producers alike are able to borrow more cheaply from a bank. And this could only go further to spur the economy as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the currency, the Kenyan shilling. Quite a poor performance. It's not possibly the worst performance, but I mean it's performed better than it is doing currently.
Yeah.
So what are your projections for this currency the first quarter of this year?
For the Kenya shilling, well, we believe it'll be around the 90 shilling mark. I don't think it's going to weaken any further, mainly for two reasons.
Right.
One is that the central bank has repeatedly intervened whenever there's any weakening in the shilling. So they've gone and done reverse repos, which is basically buying bonds to increase the money flow. Buying dollars and releasing Kenya shillings into the economy, and that will give the Kenya shilling strength. On top of that, everyone's talking about falling crude prices.
Yeah.
The Kenyan economy, 30%, we import up to 30%. 30% of our imports is crude oil. So if the price of that goes down, meaning you need less dollars, so that is also going to help the Kenya shilling stay at a stable level as well.
Okay, so let's talk about the crude prices that you mentioned.
Yeah.
Minimal dip here in Kenya, perhaps not the wide margin that we're seeing globally, but
Yeah.
quite minimal. What are your projections and why?
The main reason for that is it's twofold. So in the Kenyan economy, what the Ministry of Energy does is that every month
Yeah.
they have an auction or they have a tender in which one company is given the tender to supply the whole Kenyan market with oil. So if you look at it, and they do that for a month. So naturally, there's a 30-day lag before we can see any impact in the pump prices.
Right.
On top of that, 60% of the price you see at the pump is driven by the global price of crude. 40% is driven by the tax that's put on it. The Kenyan government puts tax on it.
Right.
So if you're looking at global crude prices have fallen by 40% this year. And if 60% of that in Kenya is based on global crude prices, that means we're looking at a drop of about 24%. So I'm hopeful that in January, when the next tender comes around, the prices will be lower.
All right, Peter,
Yeah.
we've got to leave it there for now. Thanks very much for joining us.
No problem.
We had here in studio Peter Ngeno. He's the General Manager for UAP Investments here in Kenya. And this is Global Business. We're taking a short break coming up.
Africa is on the move. It's home to 7 of the world's 10 fastest growing economies. We help you make sense of the fast changing African business landscape. We take you where the business is happening.
Global Business, weekdays at this time on CCTV Africa.
This report by the African Green Revolution Alliance says climate change will slash food output. Within the next 30 years, the number of malnourished people in sub-Saharan Africa could jump nearly 40%.
You're watching Global Biz. Welcome back. It's already the top destination on many must-see lists. So what could possibly be added to the Victoria Falls, which already draws millions of visitors? Well, a theme park to rival Disneyland, and according to the Zimbabwean Tourism Minister, Farai Mwakutuya, caught up with Walter Mzembe to find out more about these ambitious projects.
It's a multi-million-dollar vision, which some have laughed off. But that hasn't stopped Walter Mzembe from dreaming.
You can call it what you want. You can call it an eco Disneyland, as the media is suggesting. You can call it an ultra city. You can call it whatever name you give to it. But the bottom line really is we want to modernize that section of the Victoria Falls that is not governed by the World Heritage bylaws. We want to make sure that the old Victorian setting, as it currently exists today, will coexist in the future with an ultra-modern Victoria Falls.
And that means setting up amusement parks, casinos, and specially themed zones to target visitors from different parts of the world. The idea has already won over potential financiers.
From what I'm seeing now, there's huge international interest. What we now need to do is to complete the conceptualization of the project in the manner that I'm saying now, that we must align it to other products internationally before we can now issue an international invitation for an expression of interest.
Current estimates put the cost of the 300-hectare development at $460 million, a massive investment that will pay off when the millions who visit this crown jewel of Zimbabwe's tourism industry spend more money here.
We want to be able to say they can stay beyond 24 hours. Now they fly in through South Africa, they do a day plus one, and off they go, because there's nothing else to capture their imagination for the rest of the week. So we want to introduce this diversity of products.
And this is not the only big news in town. A $150 million upgrade of the Victoria Falls Airport is near completion and has aviation industry players excited.
We can increase our frequency into the Victoria Falls because the capacity to take more people is now there. The runway is bigger. We can open the airport for longer because now that we have runway lights and we can do night flights into Vic Falls.
While the international tourist seems to be the main target, locals will get in on the action too.
Amusement parks like these have fallen silent, but very soon ordinary Zimbabweans will be able to experience bigger, faster and even better rides than those that they've become accustomed to. Farai Mwakutuya, CCTV, Harare, Zimbabwe.
A young woman in Egypt is defying conservative views by taking up a job in a male-dominated industry. Nakar Mustafa is a mechanic at her father's car body shop, encouraging more women to break into traditional male-dominated fields. CCTV's Susan Mungeli tells us more.
Leka Mustafa is an 18-year-old who doesn't mind getting her hands dirty. She's hard at work at her father's business, fixing cars.
People were surprised at the beginning when they came to the body shop and saw a female mechanic working and fixing cars. They used to ask why a girl works as a mechanic. But now, after 7 years of working as a mechanic, everyone knows me and are not surprised anymore.
Leka learned everything she knows about cars from her father, Mustafa Salah, who is also a mechanic.
When she was young, she used to come with me to my body shop to help me. She was doing simple jobs like handing me tools while I worked. But now, she has grown up and has her own clients fixing their cars.
In this conservative area of southern Egypt, it's unusual for women to be working in what is considered a male job. But Salah's father says the business has helped boost finances for the family.
Leka, being a good mechanic, has taken a big load off me. The customers are impressed with her, as she is a girl and working as a mechanic. Especially where we live, that is not common to see a girl working as a mechanic.
I am so happy with what she does. I think if I had a boy, he wouldn't be as good as Leka.
People think when someone calls me All-Star, I get offended. But on the contrary, I am proud of what I do. This is my job and I'm not doing anything wrong.
Mustafa wants to qualify in mechanical engineering and uses the training to advance further in her career. Susan Mungeli, CCTV.
All right, so a quick check at the commodity prices now, and all prices sank to fresh 5.5-year lows Tuesday, extending losses after a 5% plunge in the previous session as worries over global supply glut intensified. Brent crude fell by 3% to below $52 a barrel as cuts to monthly oil selling prices for European buyers by top OPEC producer Saudi Arabia heightened worries about oversupply. Still ahead here on Global Biz, making sense out of the kitenge. We meet a Kenyan entrepreneur who's building a fashion empire one design at a time. Welcome back to Global Biz. Now, Kenyan fashion designers are making a name for themselves by combining traditional prints with Western fabrics. At a recent event in Nairobi, up-and-coming names showcased their designs, offering affordable African garments that were sold out to shoppers. Leslie Mirungu reports.
Hitting the catwalk the Kenya style. These models strutting their stuff at Nairobi Fashion Market are wearing designs by Yvonne Odhiambo, one of the most successful fashion entrepreneurs in the country.
I'm just trying to bring out that festive season in a happy way, in an African style that's still modern, that everyone can still identify themselves with.
Like many Kenyan fashion designers, Odhiambo makes use of an African garment known as kitenge. Originally, kitenge was traditionally worn by older women around their waist. But now, designers are making the garment popular again among younger dressers by using new stylish fabrics, prints, and even styles. An average dress made from the garment goes for around $75. The designer's creations, along with numerous others, are on show here at Nairobi Fashion Market. The event, held twice a year, gives fashion entrepreneurs the chance to exhibit their designs to shoppers. It was started 5 years ago.
Okay, Nairobi Fashion Market basically try to reach out for local talent and people who are not already established in the market. They cannot reach where the established designers are, so we try to bring them up and create a platform for them where they are able to be seen by the public. Yes, it's kind of a marketing platform for the local designers.
On the lookout for a new dress is Nairobi Fashion Market's Chief Executive Officer, Lynette Anderson.
I love this dress because, first of all, it just fits. It fits perfectly, and it's black. It's black with a touch of African print and the pleats. It gives the illusion that I have a nice curvy figure, which is actually what every woman wants right now.
According to Anderson, to be successful in the fashion industry, designers must market themselves well on whatever platform they can find. Odhiambo's designs did particularly well at this event. Her men's collection was sold out by the end. It seems this young fashion entrepreneur is building a name for herself, one design at a time. Leslie Mirungu, CCTV.
Nigerian entrepreneur and blogger Nneka Adesanya has stepped up to demonstrate how to make authentic jollof rice. Now, this follows, as you may very well recall, an online uproar over a version of the popular West African dish made by British celebrity chef Jamie Oliver. Now, Oliver published his own interpretation last year, which did not go down well with many Nigerians.
Nneka Adesanya is a caterer and blogger living in Lagos. Today, she is preparing jollof rice, a dish popular through West Africa. Jollof rice caused quite a stir on social media recently after British celebrity chef Jamie Oliver posted his own interpretation of the dish.
We had to make jollof rice the Nigerian way. All right, I'm sure a lot of us, read and saw what Jamie Oliver made. So I'm here to make my own Nigerian jollof rice in my beautiful small kitchen. So we have all the ingredients here. We have our groundnut oil, we have the tinned tomatoes, we have onions, we have curry, it's optional, but I like to use it. We have thyme, we have salt, and I have my stock cubes, and most importantly, pepper. And our rice, the raw rice that we're going to use in making our jollof rice.
Jamie's version of jollof rice had been up on his site for a few months until Africans began to post comments on the chef's blog. The recipe attracted over 4,000 comments across social media, with many criticizing Jamie's recipe for including whole vegetables and ingredients like coriander, a lemon wedge, and parsley. Twitter users even labeled the scandal at jollof rice. Some analysts felt there was more to the controversy than anger over a change of spices and condiments.
Like in the past, Africans were alienated from who they really are. Their cultures was diffused. But today we're beginning to appreciate who we really are. And for a foreigner to come in and tell us, this is my recipe for jollof rice, something that's staple in this part of Africa, it was like denting our own image and stealing our identity from us. And Africans had to stand up and tell him, this isn't right, this isn't the best way to do it. You should have made your research. You should have consulted us to tell you the right way to go about it.
So I'm putting in the stock cubes, then We sprinkle some salt.
But Nneka, who runs a food company called Kakalicious, supplying ready-made meals to working mothers too busy to cook, says Jamie Oliver's twist to the recipe was simply his own version and should not be viewed in negative light.
I think his version was his version, and our version would remain our version. So for Jamie Oliver, I would say he just wanted to be creative, and I think his creativity just played out somewhat in his food, so I can't exactly judge him and say it wasn't fantastic, you know, but I mean, our own way of making jollof rice is way different.
The key to great tasting jollof rice, Nneka says, is to make sure all the ingredients are blended in with the rice.
My rice and stir well enough. Ensure the pepper, the rice, everything is well incorporated, so it doesn't, you know, just stay on one part. Just have the rice, everything together.
And finally, the food is ready, controversy forgotten. Nneka and her husband settled down for their meal, enjoying jollof rice that she had just prepared, as so many other families across West Africa continue to do every day. Kofa Mrenje, CCTV.
Yeah, I did have jollof rice in Ghana. It was sumptuous, very delicious meal. All right, so let's have a quick check at the currencies now. And the South African rand firmed against the US dollar Tuesday as global oil prices continued to fall, triggering sell-offs in riskier emerging markets, with investors preferring to bet on safe haven currencies and fixed income. At the close of business Tuesday, the rand stood at 11.71 to the US dollar. So on global business tomorrow, we'll be looking at initiatives by Ethiopia to cash in on its lucrative leather industry. We'll also be looking at how Morocco is helping its small farmers navigate the perils of environmental change. Well, and that's it for this edition of Global Business. Just send your feedback to Global Business Africa at cctv.com. You can visit our Facebook page, CCTV Africa, and you can also stay in touch with Global Business on Twitter using the handle at CCTV News Africa. I am Penina Karibe. Thank you for watching.